Good morning and welcome to Beyond Common Sense. It's been a while again. It's been kind of a crazy couple months, 6 weeks of sickness, which I guess you can probably still hear it in my craggly voice. School is winding down. We're actually done except for finals and a few extra special days, so that's exciting. Trip to South Dakota for Easter. That was fun. But now we're back in the saddle, and I thought I've got a little time here this morning. I'd share a little story that I hope will be a blessing to you. As I was reading my devotions this morning, I was reading Acts 9:26. And when Saul had come to Jerusalem, he tried to join the disciples, but they were all afraid of him and did not believe that he was a disciple. Goes on in 27 to say, but Barnabas took him and brought him to the apostles. And of course, the little gray cells started vibrating and the vivid imagination started picturing what would that feel like? What about those believers who were in Jerusalem just 3 years earlier, because Paul has been gone that long, and they are still mourning the loss of their loved ones who died at the hand of Saul. What would that feel like? Well, I put together a little story called The Bitter Pill. This is a quote from David Guzik. The story of Saul's conversion begins with him leaving Jerusalem to persecute the followers of Jesus. It ends with him leaving Jerusalem as a persecuted follower of Jesus. But you still have your brother. The angry words hissed through clenched teeth, but Barnabas knew behind them was a broken heart. Josiah and Barnabas had been friends since childhood. It was Josiah whom Barnabas sought when he first became a believer. And it was Josiah's younger brother, Jonathan, who was in the wrong place at the wrong time when Saul was on his cleansing rampage. After Jesus' horrific death and unbelievable resurrection, Jerusalem and its surrounding cities were turned upside down. The Romans looked on in blindness to the unusual situation. The Jews scrambled to keep their positions and squelch Jesus' growing number of followers. The apostles and new believers, now filled with joy and hope, spread the good news far and wide. And then there was Saul of Tarsus, a young, zealous rabbi who was well educated, proud of his heritage, and looked to the temple for his bright future. He loved his God and served him well. For him, the best thing he could do for Jehovah was to rid the earth of these heretics. And he was doing just that. Going from town to town and house to house, he found these false believers and arrested them. The jails were full, so his quick wit and his sharp tongue convinced the Jewish leaders to make examples of them, and the massacres began. Josiah's village was not exempt. He had been fishing the day the raids began, but Jonathan had stayed home, suffering from one of his headaches. He had become a believer as well, and enthusiastically told anyone who would listen, and even those who would not, about his precious Lord. Many believed because of the young man's genuine zeal, exactly the type of person Saul was looking for. Jonathan heard the confusion outside his door, but thought nothing of it, probably just a squabble about prices at the market. However, when the door burst open and soldiers marched in, he was dumbfounded. "You there! Are you Jonathan, the stonemason's son?" a burly, thick-chested soldier demanded. The soldier's air of authority rankled the young man, and his head was pounding. He rose from the bed and stood tall and proud. "Yes," was the resounding response. Without a word, they stepped forward, bound his hands, and pulled him from the house. Jonathan could not keep silent. He defied them, which earned him a slap. He confronted them, another slap. And then he witnessed to them. They ignored his words and brought him to Saul. "He's your man, or should I say boy," one of the soldiers taunted. Saul walked over to Jonathan and looked at him straight in the eye, "Blasphemer," he said, and slapped Jonathan across the face. Jonathan's temper raged. "I am no blasphemer. I am a child of God and a follower of Jesus Christ." His eyes blazed with anger. "I know who you are. God have mercy on you and your soul." The words enraged Saul. He pulled his sword from its sheath. "You are the one who will need mercy from Jehovah," he said, and thrust the sword into the young man's body. He watched with twisted satisfaction as the anger was replaced with surprise. It delighted him to see the life drain from the eyes as he retracted the sword and allowed the lifeless body to fall to the ground. It was unusual protocol, but he was Saul of Tarsus. No one would question him. When the news reached Josiah, he raced home to find the lifeless body still lying in the street, surrounded by neighbors and family. He heard before he saw his mother, her wailing piercing the silence. It was as though the village had stopped breathing. Many had been taken, but only Jonathan had been slain. "You would have been proud of your brother," one of the older men said quietly as he put his hand on Josiah's shoulder. "He spoke the truth right to the end, never backing down from that wicked man." The words had been little comfort, and now that wicked man was back in Jerusalem. Some said he had been converted. Others doubted. How could such a treacherous murderer be changed that much? Why would Jesus even bother with him? To Josiah, it seemed unfair. If, in fact, the man was now a believer, how could Jesus forgive him? He had caused so much death and pain. "He murdered my little brother in cold blood. I will never forgive him." Barnabas watched as Josiah wrestled with the news. He knew Josiah's faith was being tested beyond anything Barnabas had ever faced. Well, perhaps that's not true, but that's another story, my story. He hadn't lost a brother, and he didn't know how he would respond if he had. He placed a hand on Josiah's shoulder. "I know this is hard, Josiah, maybe even impossible for you, but it isn't impossible for God." He felt Josiah stiffen and knew it was a bitter pill to swallow for his friend. "I've seen him, Josiah. I've heard his story. It is undeniable that God has his hand on the man." Josiah's head jerked up and he pulled away from Barnabas' grasp. "He is the enemy, Barnabas. He mercilessly killed my brother." The words choked him as he turned and walked away. That might seem like a strange place to end, but how will Josiah, this fictional character, how will he respond? How would I respond? How do I respond when God hands me something so hard, such a bitter pill, a circumstance that I just cannot imagine, I can't get control over? All I can do is yield to the Lord. And that's hard, isn't it? But, God always gives us the answer. He always gives us the grace to do what we need to do. It's just that yielding. That's the hard part, isn't it? It reminds me of 1 Corinthians 10:13. "No temptation has overtaken you, except such as is common to man." Sometimes we feel like nobody has it as hard as I do. And sometimes we fall down there into pity party pit and have a little boo-hoo. And that's not bad. The tears are so refreshing, aren't they? Or sharing with a friend. Just yesterday had that opportunity to just share a burden with someone else, just to help them to carry the load. I hope you have people like that in your life where you can just share. And if you don't, pray about it. Find someone. We're not to walk this road alone. The verse goes on to say, "But God is faithful." We could just end it right there, couldn't we? And yet, Paul explains, "Who will not allow you to be tempted beyond what you are able." God knows our limitations. He does. "But with the temptation will also make a way of escape, that you may be able to bear it." We will be able to bear it. God will not force us to have a right heart. He will not force us to think right. He will not force us to make the right decisions. but He will make a way, and He will give us grace, and He will always be faithful. I hope that's a help for you today, whatever you're facing, that God is faithful. He is there, and He will see us through. Hey, if you want to leave a note of how you think I should end this, should I make Josiah bitter, or should I make him better? I'd be glad to hear from you. Thanks for listening, and have a good and godly day.